Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Good evening, Dr. Bagley. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Schurger. I am great.
We are back for another round of
The Blonde and the Bald.
Well, it's been 2 weeks since we've done a recording.
It has been. We had a holiday in between.
We did. So for those who are listening to this, we know that you're not going to hear this in the timely fashion that we are recording it, but it is right after Thanksgiving. And I know I had a great Thanksgiving, a lot of pie and turkey and brisket because I decided I didn't want more turkey.
Yeah, I had a lot of turkey and I'm turkeyed out for now, and that's okay.
Once a year, I do all the turkey, I deep fry it, and then after that, I'm done for another year.
Yeah, so it's been a busy week at our office here in St. Louis. We've had a lot of new patients, and we have some awesome news. Is our intern, Dr. Shiloh, is going to be graduating in 2.5 weeks.
Wonderful.
3 weeks, and she's accepted a position at Precision Chiropractic.
Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So
the only thing that would be better is if she wanted to come to Springfield, Illinois. But,
you can't have her. She's
we will find that doctor that wants to come in here and practice here. So that would be grand. No, that's fantastic. That's great news. And I've got a funny story that will involve her in just a little bit.
Okay.
But we'll get back to that. But we were just down, I was down for a seminar a couple weeks ago. We sat down, we saw your cone beam CT installed, which is fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable technology. This technology, first of all, revolutionizes Blair chiropractic practices.
Absolutely.
But the things that we are seeing when people say, oh, x-rays shouldn't be taken or imaging shouldn't be taken, chiropractors don't need to do that. I mean, just this week, the anomalies that I'm seeing where someone cannot get traditional chiropractic because of anomalies in the upper cervical spine. Like, this is not just essential, it is life-threatening if they don't get this kind of imaging.
Absolutely. And it's amazing what X-ray is a fantastic technology, and it has been around for over 100 years now. It has really revolutionized healthcare on so many levels, and that's exactly what imaging is supposed to be for. So that way we can understand what's going in the body, because we don't have zippers and we don't have Velcro undoing. No. We have most of everything is supposed to stay inside at all times. And when you need a medical intervention that needs to go inside, I mean, they want to know exactly where they're going and not have to do a whole lot of work, because they understand surgeries that involved a lot of work going through a lot of tissue in the early days didn't turn out well. And the same thing holds true for us. We need to be able to know exactly how to do the least invasive correction to get people back into the best possible health. And I've got a great story that addresses this. Why don't we talk about your anomalies, and then we'll come into my story, because I actually have 2 parts to this story that it's really fun. Anyways,
do you want me to talk about the one that I just saw? I sent you a picture of today.
I think that's a great one to talk about.
Okay, actually, I think I'll bring a model out so people can see. So the top bone of the neck, which is right here, underneath the skull, which is right here. So now this not a live person is facing the camera right here. So a bone called the mastoid was connected to this little tip of this bone called the atlas bone. And that connection there actually articulated, which means there was a joint there. So this person had a joint between atlas on the transverse process, which is the little side and there, where it really should only articulate between the skull on the bottom where I've got my finger shoved in. If you're just listening and not looking at this, which it'd be lovely if you could see this, but it's an extra joint this person had, which absolutely changes the way that the atlas functions. But this person did fabulous with their first adjustment today. So
wonderful.
Very exciting.
And these joints are important because traditionally the atlas only has two joints on the top of it attached, that the skull sits on. So if you're looking, you're like, hey, doc, where does my atlas live? Just take your fingers, you take your pointer fingers, you put them, go right behind your ear, just pull down. And actually, as you're pulling behind your ear, you're actually on the mastoid bone. As you pull down behind your ear until you pull towards your jaw, and you should feel like this little divot, this little drop-in depression. That's where your atlas lives. Now, does everyone's atlas easily accessible? No, because if you move backwards, my atlas, from that little divot of my atlas, I have my mastoid process that you were just describing, a part of the skull, sitting right there. Now, can people adjust my atlas from that spot? Absolutely. But some people, that mastoid is huge.
Yes.
And more importantly, there's two parts to this that are really important. One, somebody who doesn't have x-rays could say, oh, yeah, I can get your atlas. And they actually get on the side of the atlas that is actually pushing into that mastoid. That could cause a number of different weird things to happen, including migraines, more neck pain, more back pain, and all sorts of wrong healing. Because these adjustments, as powerful as they are for healing people, they can also be detrimental. So this is a great jumping off spot into my story. So several years ago, I got to hear one of the founders of the chiropractic colleges. The college that I went to in Davenport, Iowa, was founded by the Palmers, D.D. and B.J. Palmer. And then one of his students, a man by the name of Sid Williams, ended up practicing in Atlanta and wanted to have another school. He wanted to have a school down there. So he created the school that is now called Life University. I think it was just Life College in that time. But Sid was having a rough time. Sid's had some health issues and some ups and downs, and he happened to be visiting a good friend of his down in Texas. There was a Marianne Pruitt who...
Marianne, that's what I'm thinking of.
Right. And Marianne was just, she was on BJ's knee when she was a baby. That's how ingrained in chiropractic she was. She was a firecracker. I did get to meet her once, and that was an amazing experience. But I think it was her father, Sterling Pruitt. That's his name.
There it is.
We need to use Sterling as a name for kids more often.
I think so. That's a great name.
I mean, if you're going to be amazing, you should be Sterling. Any case, so Sterling, Sid's down there visiting, and Sterling takes new pictures on him because Sid's not doing so good. His wife, also a chiropractor, Sid's wife, Sterling's wife was a chiropractor too, for that record. But anyway, Sid's wife, Noel, wasn't getting Sid cleared. He was having a lot of problems. So Sid's down, Dr. Pruitt, Sterling's office, and he gets new x-rays, and Sterling says, all right, here's the adjustment. And he adjusts him a little differently. I want to say it was on the left. This will come back in a little bit. And Sid's like, all right, we'll see it. And the graph changed, and all the things that they were looking at, seemed to be going in the right direction. Except Sid's health. Sid's health was not improving. He was having, he was tired all the time. He was lethargic, aches and pains. I don't remember all the symptoms. I just remember he was not doing well for about 3 or 4 weeks. And, he was down in Texas. They had gone back to Atlanta and just having trouble. And they were he was still talking with Sterling on a regular basis. But as the story goes, Sterling looks up at the x-rays because he's got this gnawing sensation that he's missing something. And then you got to remember, back in the day, x-rays, not even the 3D that we're doing with cone beam now, or the digital x-rays that they were doing, they were using plain film. So there were film quality issues.
Yes.
The technology had not advanced to this technology that we have even for today, with something called high frequency x-rays, which they're absolutely gorgeous compared to some of those older ones. And he's like, I missed something. I'm looking at something. Some structure wasn't the way that it was supposed to be. And he's studying and studying and studying the films, and he figures it out. So Sterling calls up Noel, because Sid is not practicing. Sid has this giant practice at the time down in Atlanta, and he's not able to see patients because he's that sick.
Oh, no.
Sterling calls up Noel and says, Noel, you got to set him up and hit him on the other side, which is not a great way to describe what we do.
A very precise adjustment on the other side. A very
precise adjustment on the other side was necessary, but you've got to set him up on the right side, because he had the x-ray backwards and he misread the film. Mistake. That the left was on the wrong side. So he thought the left side was the side that needed to be adjusted, and he needed to adjust him on the right side.
Yep.
And this caused all sorts of problems, as unfortunately Dr. Sid discovered.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my story. So Thanksgiving, I was down just a couple weeks ago, and I was out. My number 4 was not doing right. We're watching, Shiloh is soon to be Dr. Shiloh, is getting her technique figured out, and under your watchful tutelage, she's allowed to adjust. And I told her, this is the way we're going to get me adjusted. I need this bone moved from forward to backwards. We call that an ALS on number 4. And for me, that thing locks up like nothing. And it's been a problem on and off for several years now. And it was being a problem that weekend. Mm-hmm. So we're describing the adjustment. I watch her practice it before I get in there. I let her get in there. I let her get right on top of it, and she does it wonderfully. And then Sunday comes around as I'm back home, and I'm like, man, something's wrong. And I finally look at the extra, or the images and the notes that I had for my X-ray, and I realized I used the wrong date. I used one from earlier in the year, and it had shifted in August, from going forward to going backwards. She did it so well. Oh my goodness. It locked me up something fierce. I finally got it adjusted on Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I'm attributing my very sore knee that sort of did a pop when I was up in my up in a tree hunting over the weekend, to my own hubris and my own not double checking things the way that I should have. So
we can make mistakes.
But
the goal is to not make those.
The goal is not to make those, and to also understand that without this technology, without the ability to really dial this stuff in for each and every patient who wants to come into our office, who wants to get better, who are like asking the question, Doc, why am I not responding? I went to this other guy for 6 months and I didn't get anything. How did you turn me around in a day? And I had a patient come in tonight. He told me about 2 chiropractors that he had gone to locally, that he basically said hurt him. And
it can happen.
And he's a big guy. And it's like these these other people did their thing. And it's like, oh, I feel worse. And of course I adjust him, and he's like, yeah, my arm, wait a second. I can reach overhead now. I can move it better. It doesn't feel like it's just hanging there. So, any case, that's that's my fun story.
Yeah. Mistakes can be made. Again, goal not to make the mistakes. And I do agree the cone beam has put some hectic stuff into my practice though, because as I'm learning, it's not so much I need to learn how to, I need to learn how to manage the software quickly
Sure.
and I'm getting better at it, but there is a learning curve to the software.
Oh, sure.
But once you see it, you see it. Like you can see misalignments. And when people say you can't, like chiropractic, you can't see a misalignment on an X-ray, I say, or a image, a 3D image or an X-ray, you absolutely can. It's unbelievably clear. And that doesn't necessarily mean that needs to be adjusted right at that moment, but that is what we call a listing when something's out of alignment. And then we know exactly how to get it back into place when the neurological signals come up. I had a patient come in today who has been a patient for probably a year now. And he came in, he just read online. And I know the internet is full of trash and horribleness, but so many people find us through the internet because they're looking for answers to something that their only answer is a pill or, intense therapy, which is still necessary for a lot of people. But this young man had severe panic attacks, at least once a week, one to the point where he said he almost went to the hospital because he felt his body was burning. And so he had his wife look up and said, is that a sign of a panic attack? And she goes, yeah, actually it is. But tingling sensations through the whole body. And it's so horrible when people are having panic attacks. They feel like they're dying. And he was having those on the weekly, if not more. And he got his first Belair upper cervical adjustment about a year ago. And he came in here for just a checkup to see if any did need an adjustment today. He told us he has not had one single panic attack since his first upper cervical adjustment.
Oh, wow. That's which
amazing. Is incredible. I mean, what does that do for a person that is having those episodes? That could stop you from going out and having fun and making friends.
Yes.
He just, this young man got married over the last year.
Wonderful.
Would he have gotten married? I mean, all of those things. And as a chiropractor, it just warms my heart to know that all of the work that you and I put into learning this very advanced technique and figuring out all of these amazing structures that are dysfunctional and how we can get things back in place, how much that impact has, not just on like, neck pain and back pain. Yeah. Do patients have neck pain and back pain? Absolutely. But this is bigger than that.
Very much so.
Function of the entire body, because the brainstem connects our brain to our body.
Sure. It absolutely does. And, it's interesting, like you said, patients like, I just need to get in for a checkup. I want to make sure I'm doing well, because he remembers how bad he was at one point in time. And that's going to be something that's going to stick with him for life, because he's like, I never want to be back at that point. But I had another patient who calls me up yesterday, and it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock that I finally get back. I finally get a chance to sit down and, call her last night. She's like, Dr. Schurger, why are you calling so late? It's like, gotta call sometime. And she was starting to, she took a break. She's like, Doc, I feel so good. I'm going to go do this other therapy for some low back stuff. And I'm like, great, sure. Give me a call if you need me. Yeah. So she took a break here, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. She didn't even do the therapy because she's like, I feel so good. I don't even need that therapy. Yeah. So she took a break from everything. She's been doing great. And then since, she's older, she gets around with a cane. But prior to, recent times, she would always go down to Florida to basically winter with her husband until her husband passed. So when her husband passed, she decided to stay up here closer to her family instead of making the trip back and forth, because it was a second marriage type thing.
Yeah.
So she's up here, and we've been taking care of her pretty consistently for about 1.5 years, 2 years now. And she's like, I feel good. I don't think I need to do this anymore. And I'm like, that's fine. If when you're having problems,
we're not going to force you.
No. In November, beginning of November, she has this really bad dizzy set in. This was not a symptom she had beforehand, but it's something we see commonly in our office.
It is.
And she gets, she goes to the ENT and rules out a ear infection. She's not having, there was some stuff and some wax buildup, but nothing that was causing her to have dizzy spells. And after they took the wax buildup out, she was still having the dizzy spells. So she comes in today. Her son has to bring her in, but she's able to walk, but she's not able to drive, and she feels unsteady. She's able to do things only slower than normal. But at what point in time does somebody who's like, well, yeah, I was doing fine, and then they slowly start declining again, become more severe, more problems as far as their symptoms? So we'll see. Does she need something more? I don't know yet. But we got her adjusted, and she cleared out well. We're going to check her next week and make sure everything's good. And my gut says is she forgot how bad she was doing.
It's so common. I mean, I've made that mistake myself, where you forget how far you've come in your health, and you forget what you're doing right. And so then you stop doing the right thing, and slowly the health starts diminishing, and you don't put 2 and 2 together until like you're pretty far apart there. And I've done that a few times with my chiropractic care through the years. Being a single doctor in the office in the past, it was hard to get adjusted. It was hard to find a doctor that could adjust me. And now I've got a nice team of doctors, little fledgling chiropractors coming up, but also you're not that far. And there's a few doctors. There's one in Edwardsville, Dr. Thad Vanyo, who I could go to. And so I do have the ability to get adjusted now, but there's been times where I'm like, oh, I didn't make time. I'm too busy. Just like anybody does, is I'm too busy to take care of myself, until it smacks you in the face and you have to take care of yourself. And unfortunately, and I think one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is that so we can get the word out that this is an answer to a lot of people's issues, is if there's a structural shift in the top of the neck, they don't function well. And one of the things that I really hope that this podcast reaches is somebody, one person, more than one person right now that needs the care to research it. I don't care what city you're in, town, country, even research the Blair upper cervical technique, because it has saved my life.
I concur. And it is just, it's one of those things where, well, we're coming into the holidays, and for people who don't understand what getting their neck corrected is, well, let's use a better analogy. How many people have been doing really well on their diets right up to Thanksgiving? Hey, but it's Thanksgiving. You should have some pie. You should have some cookies. You should eat until you have to unbutton that top button. I get it. I respect it. You only do that once a year until the next week when you have the Christmas party and somebody brings in the Christmas cookies. And that's just that's the first week. And then there's, and if you go to church, there might be the Advent potluck coming up. How many of those do people have? I remember I realized some of the biggest problems we have in our health, as good as some of the churches are, is you show up at a church potluck and there will be a dearth of salad. It's not there. Not that I'm a big salad fan anymore.
I am. I love it.
Well, you can have all of the salad. I'll give you.
I will have all of the salad.
Yes, but you're never going to find. Well, you're not going to find brisket. You're not going to find any good proteins that are going to help.
I'm going to say you haven't been to my church, because we have a potluck every Sunday. We have a meal after church if people can make it. And there almost always is a wonderful salad and a wonderful meat choice.
Well,
so I'm saying my church is better than your church.
Okay, I'll give you that. But I'm going to say that the vast majority of them are going to have too many side dishes and too many desserts.
Okay, they do have that. I will say there's too many desserts and too many side dishes. But I can actually make good choices. And that's a point to make out. Like if you're going out to eat like right now, you can choose to not partake in the French fries. Like there's a choice, and you can have steamed veggies or something. There's a choice you can make. Now, do you always make that choice? No.
Yeah. And it's funny. I heard a funny aside about potatoes being satiating. And the funny thing is potatoes are supposed to be highly satiated in the one study that they did. Yeah. They're supposed to fill you up, but they weren't French fries. They weren't hash browns. They were probably boiled or baked potatoes without any butter or sour cream.
Oh, see, gross.
Exactly. And here's the thing.
Nobody's going to eat that.
Oh, it gets worse. So you have your meal of potatoes, and then 2 hours later that you are asked, would you like more potatoes?
And you're like, no, that was gross.
I don't want more potatoes because I've had potatoes, and
they're obviously just full. Yeah, no,
they're full,
and
they're not being offered meat. They're not being offered other foods. So that's a terrible study. That is a terrible study. It is. And
oh my gosh.
And this is how all the food studies are. They're all horrible like this. So when you're asking,
one day you hear one thing and the other day you hear the other, and it's like honestly, you can't trust any of that food study science, because it's all paid for by the big potato paid for that.
Exactly. That was the joke that he
damn
was
big potato.
That's a big potato. But I'm a big fan of eating red meat, and
I know you are. You love your meat.
I do.
Your brisket.
I really do. Oh, especially with cranberry.
Oh yeah, what we had here.
Oh, that was so good. Anyways.
Yeah, there's a restaurant across the street called Dolly's, and it's a barbecue restaurant, and they have this.
Tell them we're going to give them the Rogan effect. They're going to get the Rogan effect. They'll be so full we'll never be able to get it. Because our podcast is going to be so big.
So the what was it? Raspberry what? Barbecue sauce.
I want to say it was I think was it?
I think it was raspberry. I think it was
Either
raspberry.
Way, it was
like
really
vinegar.
good.
It was like a vinegar one.
I thought it was cranberry. Well, there were a couple. Anyway,
you're just in
really
the cranberry mood. I think it was raspberry.
Now I want. That's because I was thinking about using cranberry and making one from the brisket I had, and I just ate all the brisket.
Now my mouth's watering. I'm really hungry.
Well, it is late for us, and it is dinner time.
Oh, speaking of healthy food, you know what I ate today?
What?
It was Dr. Shiloh's birthday, and I bought a big pan of brownies from Sam's Club because,
Sure. She's young. And
I ate one. This brownie, I'm not going to kid you. They're each like this big.
Nice.
So this morning I grabbed one just so that it looked like they were starting to be eaten, so other people would grab them. Sure. And I put it on my desk, and through the whole day I just took like little bites of it. And I talked about with my patients, I was like, we need to have stable blood sugar. I just keep mine at like 160. And for people who don't know, you want your blood sugar to be like at like 80.
Yeah, 80 would be much better. That's usually where mine lives at all the time.
You stabilize it. I just stabilize it high.
Yes. That is good too.
So I was just eating little pieces of brownie all day, and I was so busy. I didn't eat any lunch today. So all I've eaten today is a brownie.
Yes. High quality food.
I'm the worst chiropractor ever.
You've had a day. You've had a busy day. We'll talk about
I was so busy.
We'll talk black bean brownies another time, so you have good brownies that have protein in them another day.
I didn't put any marijuana in my brownie, so it was fine.
Anyways, I think that's a good place for us to wrap.
On pot brownies. We should end it on that.
Yes, that is a good. One of my good friends said when he turns 100, he's going to have a pot brownie party. And I'm
Okay, let's
invited.
do it. I'll be there.
I'm invited.
Let's do a hot brownie party.
Any case, I haven't either, and I stay away from that stuff.
Okay, we'll have to do that on the podcast sometime.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways, we'll off the podcast, we'll talk about some other crazy stuff that we shouldn't also do because it's not good. Nobody would understand it. And they're like, what are you talking about, Doc? What kind of portals?
Yeah, we're crazy. Like, we're wild and crazy.
Yes.
The blonde and the bald are wild and crazy.
We are a little bit wild and crazy. Usually it involves
in our super dorky way, but it's fine.
Brisket. So, any case.
Hot brisket.
Yeah, I'm glad that's not a thing. Although
I'm going to make it a thing. I'm making a restaurant right now.
No. I kept on the one guy that I was buying my pork from locally was getting into growing hemp, and he was a big proponent over here in Illinois.
It's a huge deal,
and it's good stuff.
Hemp is amazing.
I'm sort of torn on it, but
like to make like paper.
Oh, absolutely. No.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about like hemp for like consuming, but like the growing hemp for like
paper and clothes. It's fantastic.
Amazing. It's when they talk about like green, renewable, all that stuff, like you cut it down and then it grows again. Like
it just wants to keep on growing.
Unbelievable. No.
But anyways, he was talking about doing this, and my brain's like, wait a second, are you going to feed that? Because you take an area for pigs, they will take it and they'll take everything down to just bare earth. And his pork was the best. So he would recycle them and he'd move them around. And they were, his bacon was amazing. His hams were just delicious. So I'm like, so are we now going to have hemp bacon? And he's like, No, I don't think
THC infused bacon. Hemp does not have that much THC in it. So
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. But it does have CBD, but that's another story.
That's good for you.
So again, I'm sort of torn on the CBD. I think we already. All right. So let's end on this. Let's
okay.
No, you'll like this. So
okay,
there are a number of studies on endocannabinoids, the orthopedic literature, in particular. Osteopathic literature, my correction. Okay. So the endocannabinoid system is a natural system that loves all these cannabinoids that are basically calming for our nervous system. They are fantastic. But
for someone who doesn't know what that means, what it means is that it's the molecule that is part of the marijuana plant that people will, if they consume it, that's the cannabinoid. Cannabinoid. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that molecule interacts. Now we've named it CBD. The same thing, because they interact together.
Right.
But that system is part of us as humans.
And it's a natural part. And it's interesting. So if you have an exosystem, that's an external system, but as an endosystem, that's an internal system that is self-regulating. So for these people who are, and this is curious because we see the same thing like your patient with anxiety. A lot of people with anxiety will take some sort of CBD or THC for that matter, and that helps calm them down and bring them back to where they're supposed to be. But what the osteopaths figured out from osteopathic manipulative therapies is they can do the therapy, and it's a much more broad spinal manipulation. I do use manipulation because they do.
It's not specific either.
It is very not specific, but it helps. They are able to upregulate the endocannabinoid system. No CBD. Are
you saying we're getting people high?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that our own systems are able to modulate that endocannabinoid system to relax the nervous system. So if that's already existing, what we do to adjust people to get their bodies to work better is actually upregulating that endocannabinoid system so their nervous system is able to relax. And I know for myself, I can't speak for other people, but every time I've tried a CBD product, I say, oh, is this going to help relax me, because if anyone has met me, they're like, Doc, are you a type A personality? And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Why are you, let me get some more coffee and let's talk about this for the next 6 hours. No, of course I'm a type A personality. So I'm like, I could use something to help me relax.
Mm-mm.
I try it. It does nothing.
Oh,
it does nothing.
Okay. So my one story I'll have when I took some CBD oil and it did not go well for me was that you remember floating, right? Going for the floats.
Blood floating. I haven't done it in quite
those.
a while.
Well, the place I was floating at, they were like, hey, we've got a free sample of the CBD oil to take before, because they're trying to sell it. And I was like, sure, I'll try it. So I take the CBD oil and then I go into the float. And about 20 minutes in the float, I was like, yeah. And my brain started doing all these weird things and I could not calm or relax. I actually had to get up and out and I had to leave.
Well, that's miserable.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, just like a lot of things, my body reacts differently than other people to certain drugs. And
I think that there are problems. I mean, this gets me back to my problem with CBD. And I've had I've got several product companies that are making CBD products. Yeah. I don't think the quality is there. I think there is some extraction issues. And they're putting in an oil, which oils inherently have a ability to go rancid quickly. So how do you know that you have a rancid oil that you're dealing with? And sometimes oils are rancid even before you consume them. So you have all of these problems with any sort of plant seed oil being rancid. And oftentimes a lot of the seed oils are deodorized, so you can't smell the rancidity that would prevent you from eating in the first place.
Good point.
But what I'm suggesting with upper cervical and the work that we do to put, in the Blair work and the chiropractic work that we do, we're already upregulating the endocannabinoid system to a level that adding something external won't actually change our perception of it unless it's not a good product and it freaks you out. And there's probably, and this is the other problem, there's a little bit of THC in some
and
of
that might have been it. And there might have been enough because I'm not used to that.
Sensitive as you are, that could
I am very. I said that to two people today. I was like, I'm very sensitive.
Yes, well, we know
I am, and so are a lot of my patients.
Yes,
you're just sensitive. Lots of different things I'm sensitive to.
Oh yeah,
and that could be it. Because I don't do that.
And I see a lot of patients like this where they are. What is the word I'm looking for? Their reaction to either a drug, sometimes a supplement, is paradoxical to what everything else is. You fall into that category. My wife falls into that category with a couple of others. A few of my other patients, it's like, you wanted to take what medication? You know better than that. Shoot, I had one gal, she get Botox, for migraines, not for flattening stuff, because she was still pretty young. But she got the Botox to help with the migraines, and it just actually the migraines up. So when she
that's miserable because that lasts like 6 months.
It did for her. It did not last that long. It did not linger that long.
God,
so I think there was, but they did enough that it was bad. So any case, so the moral of the story is, get your head on straight, do chiropractic first. And if that's still not taking care of things, then we can start examining medications through a medical doctor.
Yeah, we should be the first line of defense on this, not the last thing. And so often we're the last ones. We are the last ones because we actually fix the problem.
And that's often the case. And I would rather we get to be the...
But I'd like to catch these people before they've been dealing with misery for 15, 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just going to say the same. So, all right. I think that's a good place for us to wrap, folks. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on all of the stuff. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will have a YouTube channel. So if you're not already watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe, hit the bell. Not that that's
all of the
important.
Things.
All the things.
That's the best way to, if you like what we're doing, that's the best way to support us.
And get it out there. And feel free to share these podcasts. If you're like, hey, this is interesting, except for this one part where he's just like going off on CBD. I don't know. Or, hey, they're going to do a pop brownie party. We should invite them over.
We could do that.
Yeah. But,
that'll be next time. I'm telling you.
Make sure. Yeah, no. Make sure you're sharing
It'll
that out with
laughing.
all your. No. Now, if we're going to do something, we're going to have cigars and whiskey.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that's just me.
No, I would never do. I'd much rather do a pot brownie than cigars and whiskey. But I'll do like wine.
Maybe we'll invite. Maybe that'll just be myself and Dr. Tanasi. So, anyways.
Oh yeah, I just saw him this week.
Well, good.
Love that guy.
He's great. And he and I will get in too much trouble if
we should have him on the podcast.
That's what I'm saying. So
he won't do it.
He won't do it. No. Anyways, all right, folks. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. I'm at KeystoneChiroSPI.com. Dr.
And I'm
Bagley
at PrecisionChiroSTL.com.
All right, folks.
See you next time, guys.
Have a good evening. Bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.